Hey Veritas, how's it going, man? I think this discussion is really interesting, and so I'm glad to engage in it with you. And um, I'd like to, in this video response, retrace our steps that we took from your video on subsidies to our current discussion on ethics, if I could, because I think we lost the thread of how those two questions are connected, and then I'd like to um, address both sides of the question um, because I think they're both important. Uh, the the first part had to do with your video on economics, on subsidies, and at the end of the video, you make a statement about ethics and economics, which I thought was extremely interesting, but at the same time, um, maybe worrisome a little bit uh, if I understood you in a certain way, which was that. Um, so at the end of the video, you say something like, "It's not the problem. Isn't that people don't care about the environment?" In reference to the fact that they continue to support fossil fuel based petroleum. You said that the problem isn't that they don't care about the environment; it's that uh, the economic situation makes it difficult for them to avoid buying fossil fuels. And this is worrisome to me because it sounds as if you're subordinating ethical considerations to economic considerations, as if you're observing the fact that people are buying oil in large quantities, and you're saying, oh, the problem isn't that they don't care about the environment. It's just that the oil is so darn cheap. You know, you see all these people driving SUVs and not taking public transportation, and the problem isn't that they don't care about the environment. It's just that it's so cheap for them to drive. It's so easy for them to buy into this structure of transportation. Um, and this is problematic to me because uh, it's as if the mere fact that oil was cheap somehow uh, is sufficient to disregard the environment or what have you. Um, but that doesn't seem to be true to me. It seems to me that environmental considerations are overriding in uh, in one's life. That it's objectively wrong for someone to value their own economic um, well-being over the well-being of the environment. Now, of course, this is within a reasonable limit. Of course, I'm not talking about I'm wanting someone to go absolutely broke because of environmental considerations. I'm just saying that within a reason. For example, I'm a student and I have the option of driving, but I don't. I take the public transportation or I ride my bicycle because I care about the environment and uh, it's not incredibly inconvenient for me to use these modes of transportation. So that was the first problem I have. I don't think that economic considerations are overriding uh, over ethical considerations. So to say that people don't, it's not that people don't care about the environment, it's that it's an economic problem, um, is to me neither an explanation nor a justification for people's apathy toward the environment. Now, how we got into this question of ethics is that you said, well, who are you to, or who are we to tell people what they should or should not value? You said that we have to take it for granted that people do value or do not value certain things, and that there isn't any um, ethical truth about what they should or shouldn't do outside of what they do or do not value. And now in this latest video, you're saying that that point stops where my face starts, so to speak. This is you know, uh, my rights extend so far as they don't infringe on your rights. That idea that uh, now the problem that I have with this is that it's a very minimalistic view of um, ethics. I think that ethics are far more expansive and detailed than I think you're letting on here in describing them as simply constricted to the violation of rights, as if something was only objectively wrong insofar as it either violated your rights or your volition. I think these are the 2 points that you made. Uh, um, and I agree that those things that do violate your rights or your volition are objectively wrong, but I would want to go further. Uh, by the way, the assumption that you make about equal rights, that all men are created equal, that doesn't come from the Constitution. It comes from the Declaration of Independence. I didn't know where I was going to be able to make that historical point. I just thought it was interesting. It doesn't come from the Constitution. In fact, the moral basis for that kind of thinking is most readily found in people like Hobbes. If you read the 13th chapter of the Leviathan, it reads as if you were reading the U.S. Constitution. Or John Locke. These two philosophers, along with some other French philosophers, really provide the basis of the U.S. legal system. But the point I want to make is that the legal system only defines the bare minimum set of laws that people have to follow in order to maintain a just society. Now to go and say that that minimal set of restrictions somehow defines what is actually objectively moral seems to me very troubling. Because, for example, lying, telling an untruth, is not illegal, except in certain situations where you have a legally binding contract and you um, withdraw from that contract. Then it's illegal, fine. But in day-to-day life, we would say that lying is immoral, and yet it's not a violation of one's rights, nor is it a um, coercion of one's volition. So I don't see that your conception of morality um, captures that sense that we have that lying, for example, is wrong. And you can think of other examples, respecting your parents, for example, or helping out your neighborhood. I mean, morality extends beyond just the negative sense that you have um, described it. And I don't mean negative in a pejorative sense. I mean it in the restrictive sense, in the sense that you shouldn't do things that violate other people's rights. That's true, but morality is supposed to tell us how we should live, how we should treat one another. And I think that there are objective truths with respect to how we should treat one another and how we should live. And I think that um, the fact that we don't necessarily know what the standard is doesn't mean that this objective standard doesn't exist and that there aren't objective truths. And so I'm running out of time, but I think that these 2 points are really the points I wanted to make, that economic considerations don't trump ethical considerations, and that ethics extends beyond your rights.